take those examples from the real world and apply it to my own life, it's like, do I want to do those things? I probably could do a couple of those things and get a better position in my job, or lie a little bit here, a little bit there, and then get more stress. But that I feel bad with myself a little bit. Doesn't sit well.
Well, see, that's back to connection and having community. It's not going to sit well, but that's where the banks have
Uh,
deceived us. So back to the credit card. So there are true credit cards done by a merchant, but we have to agree that the bank never did a service for you, never provided goods for you. So they don't have an invoice. So if we can agree that the bank does not have an invoice, there is no debt. But now you say, oh, they loaned it to me. Okay, let's go that direction. So when you have no money and you go into a bank, you want to come out with money and not with a gun. And that's done with a loan. So let me ask you a question, Brew. If you apply for a loan and the bank turns you down, do you still get the loan?
no.
No, no, you're turned down, go away. You don't qualify. But if you do qualify, you have to go into the bank and you fill out loan documents. You have to prove you have an income. Because if the bank is brought into court, the judge can say, you're loaning money to people who don't even have an income. That's predatory, right? So the bank has to have you prove that you have an income because how are you going to pay the loan back? You also have to have collateral like a house or a car, or if you do a personal loan, your yacht, like you had just said. So then you also have to have a credit report to show some history, and your credit score determines your interest rate. And the last thing you sign is a promise to pay it back. If I give you something and I don't ask you as a loan document, if I don't ask you to say loan and you don't sign a loan, it's a gift. So when the bank gives you something, it's a gift. But if you sign a promissory note, that's when they got you. And that's in a second uh, a link in the show notes. Is there's that book called Modern Money Mechanics, and it says what banks do to make a loan is they accept your promissory note first, and then they write numbers into your bank account. So this whole thing about the banksters and inflation is what's happening. So you type this up. In the US, they have 1776 to present, the inflation rate, and you'll see it flat for from 1776 to 1933. Because when you take money out of someone's pocket and put it in a bank, and you take that money and put it in someone else's pocket, it's a balance, it's an equal. Now, what happened is that in 1933, it's straight up. And so, what happened back then, I believe the Federal Reserve Bank created the Depression on purpose. It is documented that they did raise the interest rate and they did choke it off, but they never tell you more. So, what happened after that is other weaker, smaller banks failed. They bought them and they consolidated. So, it's only at that point did the Federal Reserve have control of the banks in America. Once that happened in 33, that's when the fractional banking system happened. And that's when you sign a promissory note and they write any number. They can do a $500 credit card. They can do 5,000, half a million, a billion. It's just writing numbers into your free checking account. And once you have money and you spend it, there's the inflation and straight up. So that's what the bankers are doing by doing this fraud on you. They're creating inflation that we're all suffering from.
Damn. And this doesn't seem to be slowing down. Like, oh, I think I lost my camera. Oh, I'm back. I'm back. So, it doesn't. There's no signs that this is slowing down, right? Every year, I hear, oh, the inflation got up, right, raised even more and more and more and more. Like, never goes down. I don't think like the governments wanted to go down. I saw that in the U.S. apparently now the president said regular citizens can just deposit some of their personal money into a random bank account to lower the national debt. I don't know if there's anything to do with the inflation. Are those things connected?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
It's exactly what you're saying. This is on a purpose and a reason. These things just don't happen. And why does everybody, you're brought up to say inflation always happens? Inflation's good. No, it's not. To give you an example, I had married a nurse, and in the beginning, she had a student loan that was $100 a month we had to pay. She started off at $15 an hour, so it's about 7 hours of her work. Now, a couple years later, she got some more skill and was being paid $25 an hour, so it only took her 4 hours to pay the loan back. So if you know that there's going to be inflation, if you are the Rothschilds and you put your employees in office, political office, and you hire them into the Federal Reserve, and all these people are working for you, you want inflation to happen. Because then what you do is you borrow money now, knowing it's going to be less valuable. You're going to get more money later, so you're going to pay back that loan in cheaper dollars. So the whole thing about buying real estate, you know it's going to be higher priced in the future. All you got to do is wait, and you'll get more money. So there is a purpose for the inflation, and it's detrimental to all of us working people, because I used to work at UPS and I was a Teamster, and we had a very good contract. I was paying $11 an hour, but every 6 months we got a COLA, cost of living allowance, but it was always behind. So we're never caught up because we're the schlubs in the back just working. And if you look at this website, it's called Priced in Gold. So it's past tense, priced in gold. And you look up wages, and in the US wages, it peaked in 1970, right there. So in 1970, and you scroll down a little bit there, and you'll see the charts, and it'll say US wages. And you'll see it peaked at the number 3 in 1970. Then what happened? Today it's 0.3. So that means 1/10 of what it is. That's why it's going to take 10 people to work to make what that guy made back in 1970. So when you have the women's movement and you bring all these women out of the household to work, they are now competing with a male job and brings the prices down. When you bring all this illegal immigration in, that's also going to lower the wages. So that you'll see is what's going on with that. Also look it up on the Dow. There's the US wages, but you also look up the Dow and you'll see the Dow Jones Industrial, we peaked in the year 2000. So even though the Dow Jones is way up high and you think the stock market is roaring, it's not. So all of these commodities are priced in gold are going down except for one, and that's Bitcoin. So if you look up Bitcoin, it's actually going higher than gold. It's becoming more valuable than gold. So everything else is declining. Now, nothing to look at is copper. If you look at that chart on copper, you'll see that it's declining. And whenever it declines, it means we're going into a recession, depression. When it's increasing in price, that's when industry is buying more copper to do more electrical, because electricity drives our economy. So if you need more electricity, you're growing, then you're going to have the price of copper go up. If the price of copper goes down, then you're heading toward depression. And back to that Dow Jones, we've been in a depression since 2000. This is 25 years of a depression that you have no idea that you're in. And that has nothing yet. When this thing bottoms out, we're going to lose about 95% of the stock market value. So you figure 5% of 40,000 is about 200. So when the Dow hits 200, that's when I'm going to be buying stock.
Oh, wow.
Because everyone at that point is going to tell everyone, because it's always group think and that whole group mentality, that the depression's coming. No, we've already lived through it. It's done. This is the bottom. This is the lowest point you can go. You can only go up. And that's, again, knowing how cycles work and how moods, and it's all emotions from optimism to pessimism. We are in a pessimistic period right now, and it hasn't bottomed out yet.
You heard here first, folks. Buy Bitcoin, buy gold. No, I'm joking. This is not a financial podcast. I'm not responsible for your investments, everyone. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't think we need a lot of charts to conclude that the average age to buy a house nowadays is like 50, 55, 60, when like in the ages of in the time of my grandparents was like 30. You know, it doubled. I mean, you'd be 6 years old, the average age to buy a house. Like, what? There's something wrong here. Like, we are in this long-term depression that you mentioned. It's just... So when do you think it's gonna... When do you think everything gonna explode?
Oh, the timing, you never know when the timing is. I lost $100,000 trying to short the stock market for 10 years. And I thought at 3,500, it was way expensive. I never thought it was going to be 40,000. So I went to Chicago and watched where my commodity money left me. So I've done a lot of investing and lost a lot of money. So it's by far better where you own land. And so if I can get a piece of property, I can build a free house with bamboo, with wood, with other material, with mud, so I can have a structure of a house that doesn't cost me. Think back about 200 years ago, you got married, but you always had a nest first. Look at what birds do. They build a nest first before they mate. So they got to have that first, and then that's where they raise their young from the nest. We've gotten away from that. So back years ago, there was a big house that you all lived in, and then you and your wife moved out and they got your little cottage there and you built it on the land. So you built your own house, which I have seen Filipinos doing here. They're building their own house on land of their family. Then when the older folks get too old and they need more care, then they move to another house, and the families that are growing that need more space, they move into the big house, or the family stays all together, stays keep adding on to the house. So I have a whole idea of in the state of Maine, which is particular because in Maine, that has the oldest people of the United States live in one state is Maine. And most of those people own their house. They don't have a mortgage. But the problem is these little old ladies, and I say it affectionately, are living in a house, and in winter they're cold. They have to hunker down. They only live in 2 or 3 rooms, the kitchen, bathroom, and bedroom, and basically a living room is their bedroom. And so they are hungry at the end of the month because their food stamps run out. They're not being taken good care of. They're abandoned by their family. They're looked at as garbage.